first thing is to realize that if you can't sell, you really can't do anything. We're going to learn how to sell. And what I mean by that is we're going to learn how you can get your ideas across and hopefully persuade someone or influence. And so if you're in a significant relationship, have a significant other, or married, getting your spouse on board is huge. If you're a parent, getting consensus from your kids is huge. There really isn't any relationship where getting someone on board is not a huge, critical, vital piece of that relationship if it's to continue.
Top leaders, meaningful conversation, actionable advice, bulldoze complacency, ignite inspiration, create impact. Produced by the Southwestern family of companies. This is the Action Catalyst.
Are you interested in advertising with the Action Catalyst? Our listeners could be hearing about your brand right here, right now. For details, shoot us an email at info@theactioncatalyst.com.
Connie Podesta is truly one of the best keynoters in general on the planet. And she's a Hall of Fame keynote speaker, award-winning author, expert really in the psychology of human relations. And we've got her here today. We're talking about a great theme, how to get people on board, something that she is a master of. So Connie, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. You need to be my marketing person. You really give a great introduction, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I know how to sell, and you have sort of an interesting philosophy on that.
Yeah, my audiences vary from all industries, all ages, like you said, kind of all over the world, so different countries. And so I always start out and say, the only people I really want to talk to are salespeople. And then there's just a silence. And then I say, well, really, how many of you are not in sales? And then I get all these hands raised. And so then I'll go up to a guy and I'll say, so are you married? And he'll say, well, yeah. And I go, and you're not in sales? I mean, you have never tried to close a deal with her or sell her on anything. We don't need to redecorate this year, or let's save a little more money. And then I'll walk up to someone else and say, so you're not in sales now? Are you a parent? Yeah. Oh my goodness, you're not in sales? I mean, you've never tried to get your kid to meet a curfew or make better grades. So after a while, they kind of get it. And I said, so I think we need to redefine the word sales. For anyone listening that's ever had kids, psychologically, we start selling around 18 months and we become masters at it by the time we're 2.5 or 3. So anybody listening to remember kids that young, they had all the sales techniques, never read a book, never went to a workshop, but they did a needs assessment. They figured out which was the, disciplinarian parent and which one was the wimp parent. That's the one that doesn't want little Susie or Johnny to ever have any consequences. They just want their life to be happy. And so they do a needs assessment. They find out which parent or caregiver is the easiest. And then they go at it and they lay out everything that they want. I want a cookie. I don't want to go to bed. And then they overcome every objection. They got it down. So we have been selling our whole lives, but we have not perfected it. I think it's because most people, have you found, don't really like the word sales. Even sales people will say, well, that's not really what I do. I really connect. I really share. They don't want sales. Even one of the most interesting industries to me is direct sales. I mean, the word sales is in their name. It's direct sales. And yet a lot of them, before they bring me in, will say, we don't really want to use the word sales. We want you to say the word share. We share. And I said, well, if all they're doing is sharing, you're not going to keep your business going. Don't you want them to close a deal? And do you want them to place an order? Well, yeah. Well, sharing is you and I talking about a movie we like. Where you and I talking about where we should go on vacation. Closing a deal and taking money for something, that's sales. So even in businesses where sales is in their name, they're hesitant to use the word. Most of us have a psychological aversion to quote salespeople, or because we've all had that experiences. We tend to remember those more than we remember the good. Everyone listening today can picture in their mind somebody that was manipulative or pressuring, high pressure. They were, devious. All these words come to mind. It's a very suspicious kind of a word that if someone's going to sell to you, they have their own interests in mind, which often they do, and they'll do anything to close the deal. And so we don't want to use the word sales. We want to use the word share, because share is a nice word. Share means you and I are friends, and I'm not just out for me, and I'm interested in your, well-being. But we also, everyone listening now, you also can think of people who were dynamite. I mean, we have all had salespeople that were excellent. Maybe they were at a restaurant or a car dealership, a financial planner, but we don't remember those people. So a lot of people, if you put the word sales and said, give me your first word, they'll come up with a negative word rather than a positive. So I try to get rid of that first. That's the first thing we do. Is sales is not a bad word, and salespeople are not bad people. Like everyone else, there's people who don't do it correctly. They don't do it right. But there's also amazing people who are outstanding salespeople who do have your best interest in mind. And they're not trying to manipulate you or coerce you or pressure you. They really are there to help you.
So once you get past that idea of like, okay, it's okay to be in sales. There's good. It doesn't mean I'm an evil person or I'm bad. What do you think are some of like the salient points or highlights of how to get people on board?
Well, the first thing is to realize that if you can't sell, you really can't do anything. Even when I was doing private therapy and coaching and had private clients, one of the things I said to them at first is, we're going to learn how to sell. And what I mean by that is we're going to learn how you can get your ideas across and hopefully persuade someone or influence. The word I like is influence. Great salespeople are great influencers, meaning that number one, you trust them. And number two, you believe in them. And number three, you do think that they have your interest in mind. And number four, they're backed up with information and research. They had good points to make. They're open to listening. And so, if we help people understand that, and for everyone listening, if you're in a significant relationship, have a significant other, or marry, getting your spouse on board is huge. If you're a parent, getting consensus from your kids is huge. There really isn't any relationship where getting someone on board is not a huge, critical, vital piece of that relationship if it's to continue. If you and I are married, we do have some different personality things, and we have some different ideas, and we have some different perceptions, and we're going to have to figure out how to get one another on board, even if we don't always agree with each other. There at least has to be enough consensus between the two of us that we can pay our bills and live our life and raise our kids and grow together as people. And teaching people how to get on board, let's really get to the crux of what people listening now can learn. On stage, I talk about 4 different personality types, and it's kind of something I've been doing a long time. But for the purpose of this call, let's simplify it even to the bottom line. For the most part, people tend to be either, and I'm going to put it into 2 groups, either relators or bottom liners. Those are what I call it. And if you look at all the people in your life, and this is way, way, way generalizing, but it really is going to teach a point. People who are relators, probably you and I, because we speak, these are people where we're very caring. The relationship is first. We want this person to like us. We want them to respect us. We want them to go along with us. If we don't get consensus, we take it personally. We think we didn't say it right, or they don't like us, and we come on stronger. So relators, that's one group, and I'm going to talk about what they do right and what they do wrong. But then there's another group of people that are more bottom liners. These people want information more than they want to get into the relationship. So the relators are trying to get on board with the relationship, and then the information comes in second. The bottom liners are people that are really trying to get the information, make a solid, logical, rational decision, and then the relationship comes in second. So can you kind of picture that? So in a typical marriage, you tend to have often a relator and a bottom liner. One person that, we don't talk anymore, we never share anything, and you don't listen to me. And when they want something, they start way back in 1998, they tell everything, everything that leads up to it. Meanwhile, they're in a relationship with a bottom liner who has like a 6-second attention span. If they don't hear something that triggers them, connects with them, their mind is gone, and they're looking for information. So in a marriage, you can see how this happens. The relator is trying to get their spouse or significant other on board by telling stories, by the tone of their voice, by hugging someone, by telling them what happened 20 years ago. And meanwhile, the bottom liner is trying to get consensus with none of that. When the bottom liner wants something, they approach it wrong too. Instead of, setting the stage a little bit and creating a place where people can talk, which the relator wants, they just walk in and say, we really need to get the yard cleaned up, and it really should be done. They do it in a way that's so to the point that the relator kind of gets their feelings hurt, and, well, you didn't have to say it like that. So even within a long-term relationship, we have trouble. Then you move into parenting. If you have a relator parent who wants to tell the story and love the kid and where did you go and what did you do and oh, your friends are so nice. Is that what you're going to wear? And they have a bottom line kid, which you're likely to have if you have two or more. The kid has tuned you out. And then we move into work and the same thing. If I'm a salesperson and I have a great product and I'm a relator and you're a bottom liner, it's not going to happen because I'm like, how are you? I want to do some small talk. I want to meet you at a Starbucks where we have a cup of coffee. I want to get to know you. Meanwhile, you're getting more and more annoyed with me by the second. The longer you're annoyed with me, the less likely you are to ever close a deal.
Is there any sort of key indicators you can look for quickly to go, I'm dealing with a relator or I'm dealing with a bottom liner, and how do you modify accordingly?
I teach people on a stage in sales to ask someone how they want the process to go, which is something salespeople never do. I mean, God forbid they ask somebody. We all sell the way we want to be sold to. So if I'm a relator, those are the kind of salespeople that attract me. People who are open and people who are friendly. I trust them because of that personality. Therefore, I assume that everyone's like that. So when we all do that, we sell to our own personality. We convince people to our own personality. So if I'm on the call with a meeting planner and I'm trying to sell myself as their keynoter and they're trying to sell me on their convention, what I would say to them is, look, there's a couple ways we can do this. I got plenty of time. We can, sit back, get to know each other a little bit. You can ask me kinds of questions and take your time and tell me in your own way about the event, or I can just tell you what I do. I can tell you my fee. I can tell you whether I have the data available, and we'll move forward. And they will answer you within 3 seconds. You'll hear it in their voice. The relator will be like, oh, no, I've been so excited to talk to you. And yeah, let's just, I had so many questions. I got your book here. I mean, they haven't asked you what your fee is. They haven't. But if you're on with the bottom liner, there's almost annoying because even the question took too much time. So in their voice, you'll hear that annoyance. You'll hear, oh, no, I've got a meeting in 6 minutes. I just need to know your fee and don't even call me. Don't send me any fee. I mean, here's the biggest problem. People can recognize it. We're all smart. People can recognize somebody's more bottom line or they recognize someone's more relator. It's not recognizing who they're dealing with. It's changing their style once they recognize it. That's what people don't do. I mean, I deal with tons of salespeople and I watch them. And here's a bottom liner and the person's giving them a hug, which number one, anyone's touching you, they're a relator. Bottom liners are not touching you, hugging you, or standing close to you. And, they're getting hugged and talking, and the bottom liner, he sees it, but he or she isn't going to change it. Instead of standing back, taking a deep breath, and saying to themselves, you know what, this isn't how I would like to do it, but obviously I'm going to have to make some small talk here. I'm going to have to kind of watch what's going on. I'm going to have to take my time, or I'm never going to close this deal. If we're trying to close a deal, if we're trying to influence someone's behavior and get them on board, whether it's another department or our boss or a child or a coworker, doesn't make any difference who it is. If somebody's going to be uncomfortable, it should not be them. If anyone's going to be uncomfortable, it should be us. If we truly want to close the deal. If anyone's going to change behaviors or change styles of selling or styles of influencing or persuading, we should not expect them. And where it really happens is in parenting, because as parents, we see ourselves in the authority position. There's no way do we think we should have to change our style. And yet, if you really want that kid to make better grades, or you really want your child to, do something that's important to you, then it's still valuable. And I do not mean, for anyone listening, I'm not asking that you compromise your values or your ethics or the essence of who you are. Sometimes I get an email that once in a while. So we're not asking you to compromise who you are, what you believe in. The only thing I'm suggesting is that your style of influence, your style of presenting the situation could be tempered based on what's comfortable for the other person rather than what's comfortable for you.
Folks, go to ConniePodesta.com. Connie, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. And to stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst Podcast and on Twitter at Catalyst_Action. And as always, thanks for listening.